guys have been in a pretty cool series called, can you tell me what it's called? What your series has been? Maybe it's been on Wednesday nights. What's that one been called? Anybody know? No? Influencer. Yes. So maybe you haven't been here in a couple weeks, or maybe this is a Wednesday series, but we've been going through a series called Influencer. And I just want you to think about that, right? That's almost a profession today. Like when people grow up, they want to be an influencer. Have you heard that? And maybe for some people in this room, you want to be an influencer. Well, I have some really exciting news for you, everybody. Did you know that every single one of us is an influencer? We are. We might not be getting paid to do it, right? There might not be businesses that are giving us free product to post something on our social media, but at the end of the day, and at the end of our lives, all of us are influencers. Did you know that? Every single one of us has influence. And I just want to break this down for you today. We're just going to have a conversation. I've got a little bit of some scriptures that I want to share with you, but I want to talk about what it means to be someone that is being influenced and that is influencing others, okay? Let's just break down the word influence. What does that mean? It means the capacity or the ability to have an effect. To have an effect. So that means something happens. So because of you have the ability to make something happen. What? To make something happen on the character, on the development, or on the behavior of someone or something. So every single one of us has influence, all right? I want you to believe that. No matter where you go, no matter what anybody says to you, every single one of us has influence. So every single one of us in this room has the ability to have an effect on the character of someone else, on the development of someone else, on the behavior of someone else. So because of the way that you live your life, did you know this? You can cause life change in someone else. Isn't that amazing? Think about that. And even when I think about my life, I think about growing up. I know that I had people that I naturally looked up to in my life. Does anybody have some people in your life that you just naturally look up to? You naturally aspire to want to be like them. What does that mean? That means that those people have influence over you. They're impacting the way that you choose to live your life. They're impacting your behavior. Usually the people that we look up to, we end up doing the same exact things that they do. Why? Because they have influence over us. Who they are and what they do and the way that they carry themselves changes the way that I behave, changes what I believe. That's powerful. Influence is powerful, and every single one of us has it. We all have it. Even if you think you don't, all right? I promise you, you do. You do. I wrote this down as I was prepping this message. We are all of us are always being influenced by someone or something. All of us, always. And I wanted to tell you these 3 ways, the main ways that we're being influenced. It's by our eyes, it's by our ears, and it's by our mouth. We're being influenced by the things that we see. When you look up to someone, you're actually looking at someone, right? If not literally in your imagination, your eyes are connected to your brain. Did you know that? It's pretty wild. So even when you imagine something, that's like the eyes of your mind, but your eyes are actually connected to your brain. So we're influenced by the things that we look at. We're influenced by the voices that we listen to. There's 3 things. The last thing is our mouth. Did you know what you say, the words that come out of your mouth, influence you in your life? They shape your behavior. So those are the 3 things: your eyes, your ears, and your mouth. The things that we see, the things that we hear, and the things that we say. That's how we are influenced. I have a verse that I wanted to share with anybody in this room who thinks that maybe they don't have influence. In 1 Timothy chapter 4, verse 12, many of us know this verse. It says, "Don't let anyone look down upon you because you're young, but set an example for the believers in speech, in conduct, in love, in faith, and in purity." You know what this verse is saying? It's saying recognize that no matter how old you are, you have influence. And don't let anyone make you think otherwise. Because you do, you have influence. Every decision we make shapes us and molds us. And I think the most powerful thing that God has given us, all of us as human beings, is the power of choice. The most powerful thing that God has given us is the ability to choose. And every human being has this ability. And so I want you to think about this for a second. Every single decision we make shapes who we are, right? You get to decide what you look at. You get to decide who you listen to. You get to decide the words that you speak and the things that you say. And remember, how are we influenced? By our eyes, by our ears, by our mouth. You get to decide those things. This is the most powerful truth and reality that any of us can realize. We have to wake up to this truth, that we have the ability to choose. We have the ability to choose. But what comes before the decision, right? Think about that. Because I like to break stuff down and I like to make it as practical as I possibly can. So if the most powerful thing that any of us has as human beings is the ability to choose, what usually comes before that choice? Think about it. Why does anyone make a decision? Think about it. Why do you choose to go to one coffee shop over another? Why do you choose to go to one church over another? Why? What happens before that choice? Think about it. Influence. Influence is what happens before the choice. So if the ability to choose is the most powerful thing that God has gifted us with, what has the potential to be even more powerful than that choice, than the decision, than the actual act itself? The things that influence us. The things that influence us, the people that we look up to, the things that we see, the things that we hear, the things that we say. Those things are actually more powerful than the actual choice itself. The things that influence us. Influence is that powerful. Influence has the ability to change the course of your life forever. And did you know your influence has the ability to change the course of someone else's life forever? Forever. I was processing my life early on. I was a pretty quiet kid growing up. And I mean, we've all done some things that we're not proud of, right? And I was not a bully growing up. Most of my life, I was the one who would fight the bullies. But I can remember a couple moments in my life that I'm really not proud of. And I remember being in elementary school. And I found out one of my classmates didn't own a TV in their house. Like his parents they thought a TV was evil. And you know what I did? I made fun of him because he didn't have a TV in his house. I was like, that's the weirdest thing I've ever heard of in my entire life. And I was like, dude, you're weird. You don't have a TV in your house? Who are you? Where are you from? This is crazy. And I remember I was in 4th or 5th grade. How sad, right? That I was making fun of a kid because he didn't have a TV in his house. And you know what? His parents were smart. He's probably a lot better off than I am because he didn't have a TV in his house growing up, maybe. Or maybe when he finally got one, he just started binge watching every show ever and he's actually way worse off. But it reminds me, I was talking to this young guy. He's like a nephew to me. He's 12 years old. He's turning 13. He's in junior high. And it wasn't at our church, thank God, but he was having a conversation with me. We were going out to lunch and he was like, Nate, I had a hard week. He was like, at youth group, all the kids were making fun of me because I don't own a phone. And he's 12 years old, right? I don't know how old you were when you first got your phone. I didn't get a phone until I was a freshman in high school. But he said, yeah, they were making fun of me and they were calling me weirdo because I don't own a phone. And I was thinking to myself, how sad is that? How sad is that? Because all of us have influence. And we can use our influence for one of two things, to bring life or to bring death. That's it. Those are our only two choices, you guys. That's it. And I remember even when I was in elementary school and I was making fun of that kid, what was I choosing to bring in that moment? I was using my influence to bring death, right? And these kids at church, at youth group, are making fun of this 12-year-old boy because he doesn't own a phone. They're using their influence to bring death, not to bring life. And I wrote this down as I was processing our influence. When we are mean to someone or we make fun of someone, you know that reveals our heart. It does. It really has nothing to do with the person that we're actually making fun of. It has everything to do with our own heart. And you know what it shows us? We actually don't feel good about ourselves. So we have to use the little bit of influence we have to tear someone else down to try to make ourselves feel better. How sad is that? How sad is that? And so I wanted to encourage you guys, and I wanted to ask you, who are you being influenced by, and how are you using your influence? Is it to bring life, or is it to bring death? In the scriptures, in Deuteronomy chapter 30, verse 15, there's a guy by the name of Moses. And maybe you know who Moses is from the Prince of Egypt, right? But Moses is one of the leaders that God raised up and appointed to use his influence to lead God's people out of Egypt and into the promised land. And the Israelites were so close to entering into the promised land. And Moses was getting ready to share his kind of final words with God's people. And this is what Moses said to the Israelites. And I want all of us to take Moses' words to heart. I'm gonna read it all, but then I'm gonna just point out one verse. He says, "See, I set before you today," and these are the words of God through Moses. "I set before you today life and prosperity and death and destruction. For I command you today to love the Lord your God, to walk in obedience to him, and to keep his commands, decrees, and laws. Then you will have life and experience increase, and the Lord your God will bless you in the land that you are entering to possess. But if your heart turns away and you're not obedient, and if you're drawn away to bow down to other gods and worship them, I declare to you this day that you will certainly be destroyed. Death will enter into your life. You will not live long in the land you are crossing the Jordan to enter and possess. This day I call the heavens and the earth as witnesses against you, that I have set before you today life and death, blessings and curse. Now choose life, so that you and your children may live, and that you may love the Lord your God, listen to his voice, and hold fast to him. For the Lord is your life, and he will give you many years in the land he swore to give you, to your fathers, to Abraham, to Isaac, and to Jacob." And so I just want to point out this one verse, and I want you to remember this verse for the rest of your life. "See, I set before you today, and every single day that we wake up, life and death. Life and death." I think back on my high school years, and I wasn't easily influenced. I saw a lot of unhealthy decisions around me in my life. And if you guys know my story, you know that a lot of my immediate family was addicted to drugs. And I saw what those decisions led to, right? Eventually ended up my mom having a stroke. You've heard this story over and over again. But from an early age, when I was in high school, I was like, okay. And I wasn't even plugged into church, right? I didn't even have a consistent upbringing that I could go to church every weekend. But I recognized something. Even before I was following the Lord, I was like, there's decisions that we can make as human beings that can lead to life, full life, abundant life, health, wholeness. And clearly there's decisions that we can make that lead to death and lead to destruction and lead to more pain. Clearly, that's evident. I can see that. And then as I got older, in high school, my mom had her stroke. I had friends around me that were making decisions that I just didn't want to be a part of, right? And I was like, no, I'm good, man. I don't want to go there. I don't want to do that. I know what that stuff can lead to. And I'm not judging you, but I just know what's best for me and for my life because I've seen the people that have gone ahead of me make these same decisions. And it's only led to one thing, and that's more pain, more death, and more destruction. You don't have to go do these things. I'll be here waiting for you. I love you. And a lot of my friends, they went and did these things, right? They went to parties, they drank, they smoked, they did all that stuff. And you know what happened? For most of my friends, they're in the same town doing the same things in Southern California. And for many of them, God has set before all of us life and death. Did you know that it is possible to be alive, but never really truly live. Did you know that? It is. It's possible to exist, right? To be alive, but to never truly live. Have you ever experienced the life that He came to bring us? Have you ever experienced His grace, His goodness, His love, His mercy? Have you ever experienced a deep connection with a friend who's a Christ follower, and you just feel so connected to this friend, and that's such a gift from the Lord? Have you ever experienced that? That abundant life that God came to bring us right here, right now? Have you ever utilized your influence for good? And have you seen it just make a little ripple effect in someone else's life that causes them to make a decision for Jesus? Have you ever seen that? And if you haven't, the potential's there. Choose life. Choose to wield your influence for good. Choose to speak life into the life of someone who's maybe getting made fun of, right? Choose to step in and to intervene and to bring life to a situation where other people are trying to bring death, right? I set before you today life and prosperity, or death and destruction. It's possible to be alive, but to never really live. Not for you, not for God's people. God came to bring abundant life. And I have this one final question. What is influencing you? What is influencing you? I have this passage in Genesis chapter 3, the beginning of time, right? Adam and Eve. And I don't want to read it because we don't have enough time, but we can look back in Genesis chapter 3, verses 1-6. You guys can read it on your own. You could throw it up on the screen if you want, but I'm not going to read it verse by verse, line by line right now. But we can see, even in the beginning of time, that humanity gave in. And they were influenced by death, not by life. And the serpent came and said, did God really say you can't eat from that tree? Did God really say? And then you know what the humans said? I don't know, did he say that? When clearly they knew what God said. And then they took of the fruit from the forbidden tree and they ate it. And their eyes were opened. And it says they experienced, in the scriptures it says, their eyes were opened and they experienced their nakedness or their humanity, and they felt shame. They felt shame. So they chose to listen to the voice of this world, right? They chose to listen to the voice that is opposed to God. And what does the voice of this world bring over and over and over again when I choose to listen to that voice? You know what it brings? It brings shame into my life. It makes me feel like I need to hide who I am. But what happens when you listen to the voice of love? When you listen to the voice of the Father? What does that voice bring to your life? The voice of the world leads only to more striving, right? I feel like I have to earn the approval of my friends. I feel like I have to earn the acceptance of my parents. I feel like I have to earn my salvation, right? I've got to be good. I can't sin. Oh my gosh, I'm going to go to hell. That's what the voice of the world tells us. And it only brings more anxiety and more shame and more hiding. Don't be influenced by the voice of this world. The voice of the Father always and only leads to more grace, to more forgiveness, to more connection, to more life. Choose to be influenced by the voice of God, not the voice of this world. Listen to the voice of love. Remember, it's your eyes, it's your ears, it's your mouth. It's the things that you see. It's the things that you hear. And it's the things that you say. They all shape us. And then I have kind of one final lasting thought. None of us can truly make life-giving choices without the gift of God's life-giving Spirit. I remember when I was younger, I used to be so upset, like my mom, I would see her make these decisions and it would hurt my heart. And I'm like, Mom, why are you doing this? Why do you keep running back to these addictions? Why do you keep doing these things? And my mom wasn't connected to the source of life. So I put all these expectations on her, right? I'm like, Mom, come on. You got to give this stuff up. You know what this is going to lead to. And my mom, she didn't have a relationship with God. She didn't even have the ability to make life-giving choices because she didn't have this connection with Jesus. And you know what it took for my mom, honestly? It took so much pain and death and destruction coming into her life that finally she had nowhere else to go. She had nowhere else to go. Everything was taken from her. Everything. But even when everything is taken from us, Jesus is still there. And now my mom has a relationship with Jesus, and nothing can take that from her. Nothing can take that from her. But I don't want anybody in my life to have to go through that kind of pain, right? That kind of death, that kind of destruction before they make a life-giving decision. No. What's influencing you? Is it the world? Is it your so-called friends, right? I put that in quotes. Or is it God and his Spirit and friends that love Jesus and that are connected to the source of life? What's influencing you? That's the question that I want to leave all of us with today. And I wanted to close our time just by praying, right? I want to pray for you guys. Because maybe there's some people in this room who have been on the receiving end of someone else's hurtful words, right? And someone else has wielded their influence to bring death. I want to pray for you. Maybe there's somebody in this room who feels like they don't have any influence. Nobody cares about them. What difference can I make, right? I want to pray for you. You can make a world of difference. I promise you. And maybe there's somebody in this room who you know you've been influenced by the wrong voice. And it's only brought more shame and more anxiety, and you felt like you have to hide who you are. I want to tell you, that's done, that's over with. Don't listen to that voice anymore. I want to pray for you. Listen to God's voice. Listen to the voice of love. Let's pray right now together. God, we come before you right now and we thank you for your presence and for your Spirit and for the power that it brings into our life. God, I pray for every single person in this room. I pray that you would open our eyes and our ears to your Spirit and that we would listen to your voice. And that you would remind us right now in this moment that we have more influence than we could ever imagine. We have enough influence to change not only our lives, but the lives of the people around us forever, for eternity, God. If we would just wake up to that reality. Help us to recognize how powerful it is that we get the ability to choose and to decide. But even before that, we have to recognize the things that have influence over our lives. What is influencing us, God? Help us to be real about that. What voices are we listening to? What things are we looking at? What are the words that we're speaking out loud? All of those things shape us. All of those things make us who we are. I pray right now for anybody that feels like their life may be so small and what influence do they have, God? Just remind them how powerfully you've made them. Every single one of us. Every single one of us, God. That we're not forgotten. That we're loved unconditionally. And for anybody that knows that they've been listening to the wrong voice, God, I pray right now that they would hear your voice, that they would have heard your voice through this message, that they would have heard your voice through these scriptures, and that they would hear your voice right now through this prayer. And remind us of how loved we are, God, how unconditionally loved we are, that we're wanted, that we're accepted, all because of your son, Jesus. Help us to be a force in this world, God, Youth Tribe, to be a tribe that goes out and that influences this world to draw them closer to your heart. And I pray that in your name, Jesus. Amen.